Welcome back to the deep dive. So you've spent years, maybe millions, and countless hours getting your patent. You get that grant notice, and it feels like a triumph.
It absolutely is.
But then comes the administrative gut punch. That patent doesn't just live on its own. It needs to be maintained.
That's right. And today we're moving past, the drama of prosecution, the novelty arguments, the prior art searches, and into something, well, more mundane, but just as critical.
Administrative upkeep.
Exactly. We're deep diving into Chapter 2500 of the Manual of Patent Examining Procedure, the MPEP, which is all about U.S. patent maintenance fees.
I like to think of it as the tax code for your innovation. And for you listening, our mission here is to really decode the mechanics, the deadlines, and the, frankly, surprisingly high stakes of just keeping your patent alive.
It's a foundational fact that people often forget. U.S. patents aren't granted forever without cost. They require these periodic payments. And if you fail this administrative test, everything you worked for just lapses instantly. And it's all governed with ruthless precision by this chapter.
Okay, so let's unpack that. You get the patent, you celebrate. How long do you have before that first bill shows up?
Well, the whole schedule is calculated strictly from one date. The original grant date of the patent, not the filing date, not anything else, just that one day.
And the deadlines are a little strange, aren't they? They're not on the exact anniversary.
No, they're not. Let's focus on the two later payments, which are really significant. The second maintenance fee payment is due at 7 years and 6 months after the grant date.
7.5 years, okay.
And the third and final one is due at 11 years and 6 months after grant.
Why the 6-month offset? I mean, why not just make it a clean 8 and 12 years?
The MPP doesn't give an explicit policy reason, but the general consensus is that these are strategic checkpoints. They are designed to be a sort of weeding out mechanism.
A way to force you to really think about it.
Yeah, precisely. The government wants to ensure that only patents that are still strategically vital, the ones owners are willing to invest real capital into, stay on the books. It makes the decision deliberate.
So it's not just a fee, it's a commitment test.
No.
Let's talk about the money then. For a standard entity, other than a small or micro entity, what are the stakes?
They're substantial, and they go up over time.
For that midlife fee, the one at 7.5 years, the source material says it's $2,480.
Right, and that's a serious check to write. But then you get to the final fee at 11.5 years.
When the patent's getting pretty old.
Exactly. And that one jumps to $4,110. You can see the strategy there. It's the highest barrier, forcing a patent owner to ask, is this decade-old technology really worth another $4,000?
Wow. And if you're managing a big portfolio, that adds up incredibly fast. The money is one thing, but you mentioned the clock is rigid. Let's get into the timing.
This is where it gets terrifying. The MPP defines the due date as the last day you can pay without a surcharge. If your fee is due, that's the moment of truth.
But there is a bit of a safety net, right? This grace period.
There is, yes. But it's not a free pass.
Yeah.
You get exactly 6 months right after the due date to catch up.
Okay, so a lifeline.
A lifeline that costs you money. The director requires you to pay a statutory surcharge to get your payment accepted during that 6-month window. It's a penalty for being late.
So I miss my $4,110 deadline. I now owe that plus the surcharge. What happens if I miss the end of that 6-month grace period?
That is the moment of catastrophe. The MPP is crystal clear. It says the patent shall expire as of the end of the grace period.
Shall expire, not may, not could.
It's an administrative execution.
Wow.
The rights are gone. Enforcement stops.
So the patent is just dead. Is there any way back from that?
There is, sometimes. You can petition to have the patent reinstated if the delay was, say, unintentional or unavoidable. But, and this is a huge but, if you succeed, you run headfirst into a very serious legal complication.
Which is what?
It's called intervening rights.
Intervening rights. Okay, let's unpack that. This sounds critical.
Oh, it is. It's governed by federal statute. Basically, when your patent lapses, the world is legally allowed to assume it's public property. So your competitors might see it's expired and start making your invention.
Right, because it's in the public domain at that point.
Exactly. So let's say a competitor invests in a new production line, starts manufacturing your product. All during that time, your patent was lapsed.
And then I realize, my mistake, I pay the fees, I successfully revive the patent, I can just send them a cease and desist letter and shut them down.
No, you cannot. And that is the entire point of intervening rights. The law protects those who acted in good faith, who relied on the public record. They can often continue using, selling, or importing that product.
Wait, forever.
The specifics can be determined by a court, but yes, you've essentially created a legally immune competitor through your own administrative mistake.
That is a massive consequence. It's not just a fee. You could permanently damage your market exclusivity.
Precisely. And it goes even further. If a company made, substantial preparations during a lapse, maybe they ordered custom machinery, a court can step in and permit them to continue their activities. It's all about fairness, balancing your rights against the investments they made when they thought your patent was gone.
So the real cost of missing a deadline isn't the surcharge. It's potentially losing your monopoly against anyone who jumped in while the patent was down.
That is the ultimate risk. Administrative precision is paramount.
That's a huge pivot. Okay, let's talk about another layer of complexity. What happens with reissue patents?
Ah, yes. This is where portfolio management can become a real nightmare. A reissue is when you correct or broaden an existing patent.
So you have the original patent and now this new corrected version.
Correct. And the rules, as of 2018, are very specific. You have to pay a separate maintenance fee for each reissue patent that comes from that single original patent.
Each one.
Each one. And here's the kicker. You also have to keep paying for the original patent itself if there's still a reissue application pending.
So, if I have an original patent and I get 2 reissues from it, I could be on the hook for 3 separate maintenance fees at that 7.5-year mark.
You absolutely could be. It's the cost of modifying your IP. You have to maintain the original and all its legal children, so to speak. It can triple your administrative burden and your budget overnight.
That is a lot to track. Which brings us to the logistics of actually paying. How do you make sure the payment even gets to the right place?
The MPP is, again, very granular on this. They allow you to specify a separate fee address. This is an address used only for maintenance fee correspondence.
Which is different from the regular correspondence address for the patent.
Completely different. The idea is to make sure these critical, time-sensitive bills go directly to, say, the finance or IP logistics department.
And not to the law firm that prosecuted the patent 5 years ago and might not even be involved anymore.
Exactly right. It centralizes responsibility and removes excuses.
And what if you're not paying online? What if you're, mailing a physical check?
Then you better be precise. The MPEP specifies the exact mailing address down to the P.O. box.
What is it?
It is Mail Stop Maintenance Fee, Director of the United States Patent and Trademark Office, P.O. Box 1450, Alexandria, Virginia, 223NE3, 1450.
It's amazing that they specify the mail stop. I mean, the idea that you could lose a patent because your payment went to the wrong P.O. box is just... It shows how strict this all is.
It really does. The system does not forgive procedural errors. The rules are the rules.
So, to sum all this up, getting a patent is one thing, but keeping it is a high-stakes administrative test. It's timed, it's expensive, and the fees get higher over time.
And you've got a very unforgiving 6-month grace period with a penalty.
If you fail, the patent lapses. And even if you bring it back to life, you risk creating legally immune competitors because of intervening rights.
And that burden gets even heavier with reissue patents, where you have to track and pay for every single version of your IP.
It's a lot.
It is. The key takeaway really is that logistics are just as important as legal strategy. So that brings me to a final thought for our listeners to consider.
Okay.
Given that you have to pay separate fees for the original patent and for each reissue, and knowing the devastating risk of intervening rights if you slip up, how can a company, especially one with a large portfolio, build a tracking system that is truly immune to accidental failure? It seems to require more than just budgeting. It needs constant active auditing.
That is a serious challenge, and the cost of getting it wrong is enormous.
Before we close, we do want to extend a special thank you to Mike Shepard, the creative director who organized this entire audio series.
And, of course, our standard disclaimer. This summary of the MPEP was generated using AI tools, including ChatGPT and NotebookLM, and may contain errors or omissions. It is provided for general educational and informational purposes only and is not legal advice or a substitute for formal instruction.
For any authoritative guidance, please consult the official MPEP, a qualified instructor, or a registered patent practitioner.
Please do. Thank you for trusting us with your request for this deep dive. We hope this has been useful in helping you keep your portfolio strong. We'll see you next time.